Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Gavinsky's Tutorials. And today I'm looking at an app that has excited me more than any other release since, let's say, Ice Gear Nambu. I absolutely love this thing. I think it's brilliant. So this is a release by Red Rock Sound and it's called Ivoks. And basically, let's say it's inspired by the very famous Soviet-era Russian synth called Polivoks. And it's not identical in every way, but it's pretty much the same. So in this video, there are a few things. First of all, let me mention that I've got a giveaway. 3 winners spread across YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram can win any Red Rock Sounds app or IAP. The details of that are in the pinned comment. So this first thing. Second thing, I'm going to do a full walkthrough today, so take you through all the controls and explain some of the quirks and interesting features of this instrument. This was basically designed to be something a little bit like a mini Moog, but it's a bit different. It's got a few quite unique features that can create some very interesting sounds and textures. Another thing I want to mention right off the bat, some people have been complaining, why, like the original, can this only be monophonic or duophonic? You know, it's not a bit of analog gear. It could easily be made polyphonic. So yesterday I talked to the dev, Pavel, who seems like a really nice guy, and he said, yeah, you know what, we are going to make it polyphonic. But also in today's video, I'm going to actually show you how to kind of do a little hack that will enable you in the meantime to use this as a polyphonic instrument. So that'll come a bit later in the video. And I'll take you through some presets that I made that show some of the interesting sounds that you can make with this, and I'll maybe take you through some of the factory presets as well. There are quite a few, and they're really, really good. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing I want to do is just let you hear a little bit of this in action. I've got Zoa from Ryan Robinson, audio symmetric, Rosetta bassline, got a beta instance of Riffler here. Keep missing that X. And those things are going in and controlling various instances of Ivoks here. So first we've got a bass, which I'm also adding on a Bleece sidekick to. Then we've got a duophonic sound. And then I'm bringing in a little bit of Hammerhead by Bramboss for a bit more percussion. And then I got this slap pluck lead, emotion lead, and actually 2 instances of that emotion lead. On a couple of these, I'm also adding a little bit of vintage rack by another Russian developer called Igor Vasiliev. I reviewed this recently, great app. You can also see on one of these instances, I'm adding CL1, which is a vintage Soviet era compressor emulation, also by Red Rock Sound. So let's just first listen to that and then I'll take you through the interface. So let me bring this bass and kick in first. Some of those timings were a bit funny, but that's the dangers of working with generative stuff. That hi-hat is coming in a bit off time for my liking. But anyway, it gives you an idea of what this can sound like, and I absolutely love the sound of it. I think it's great. So let's take a little look at the interface. So this part, I'll just speak through it. I won't demo things, but after I've run through the interface, I'll then use some presets to demo some of the features. So first, let's look at this second section. So we can basically divide it into 5 sections. So we got this modulator section here, we've got another section here, then we've got the oscillators and the mixers, then we got the filter section. This filter section, by the way, is available as a standalone app. There might be some differences, but Red Rock Sound does have a filter app based on the Polivoks. And like this, it's only $5. One cool thing, by the way, about Red Rock Sound is all their iPad or iOS, their apps are universal. So all their iPad, iPhone apps can be downloaded for free, demoed as audio units for up to 5 minutes. And then if you want to continue using them after that, either you buy the $5 in-app purchase, or you can just restart the app. So, you know, I love that, because really I feel that everybody on iOS should have a chance to demo apps before they buy them. So that's a great thing. So you can go and check out that filter app also if you haven't. It's excellent. The Polivoks is very, very famous for its filter, and it's got a couple of unique features. And then we have here this amplifier section. So if we come back over here, we have 2 oscillators. And let's look at oscillator 1. So band is basically controlling the frequency of the oscillator. And if we look at it, it basically goes by MIDI notes. So it goes up to 127. So what that means is you've got 128 divisions. And what that means in effect is that if you want to, because this doesn't basically snap to an octave. So if you want to go up to the second octave, that would be at a value of 32. And then it's going to be multiples of 32. So the next octave will be 64, etc., etc. We got a choice of different waveforms here. Now here we control the amount of modulation coming from the modulator section to this oscillator. And here we can do X mod, right? So we can modulate oscillator 2 using oscillator 1. So we can see that there are a lot of modulation possibilities. Now also in oscillator 2, it's basically identical to oscillator 1, except we also have this detune section. But I mean, since you know, these don't snap to octaves anyway, you've also got certain amount of detuning here. I guess this is a finer level of control. We have down here a mixer section where we control the levels of oscillator 1 and oscillator 2. We can also bring in noise, and we can bring in saturation. I think that is something new that maybe wasn't in the original synth. There's an extremely good article you can read online, very well written and very, very enthusiastic about a little bit about the history of the Polivoks and what makes it so special. And I'll put a link to that in the comment and in the description section of this video. Now, let me remind you, by the way, everybody, if you're enjoying this so far and finding it useful, regardless of whether you're interested in the giveaway or not, please do give it a thumbs up, etc. If you like this sort of stuff, subscribe to the channel, hit the subscription icon, and then if you want to get all notifications, choose all when the bell pops up. Okay, so then let's go up here. We've got the modulator. So here we're controlling the speed of the modulators. This is basically an LFO. And again, we have a couple of different waveforms, triangle, square, random, and sample and hold, basically. Then we come down to a section that basically controls the overall output of the synth. So we can control glide speed if we're using it monophonically. We've got an overall tuning control. We can choose between legato and re-trigger. For those who don't know, re-trigger will start the envelope from the beginning every time you play a new note. Legato will let the envelope continue until its end, regardless of whether you play a new note or not. Here we switch between the monophonic and duophonic modes. And the duophonic can really produce some interesting results. We can also turn unison mode on and off here. If we are running it duophonically, unison will basically turn it monophonic. We got an overall volume level here. Okay, so that's that section. Then we come to the filter. Now, special thing about Polivoks filter is that it's got two modes. Actually, also the amplifier has these two modes as well. So when it's switched up to the top, it's on this one, which basically is, an ADSR envelope. And here we just have repeating, attack, and decay envelopes. And this is one of the kind of unique things that can produce some of the very interesting effects and timbres that this machine is capable of. But there's a little bit of a weird thing that I mentioned to Pavel, the developer, and I'm not sure if this is something that is a kind of quirk of the original instrument or whether it's a bug. He said he's going to look into it. It might be a bug. But even when you've got it on the attack and decay only mode, well, actually playing with sustain and release still changes the operation of the filter. So I'm not really sure about that, but let's get some clarification on that maybe later. So then we've got, our filter envelope controls, attack, decay, sustain, and release, our cutoff and resolution for the filter. And the filter on this is really, really respected. It's considered at, lower resolutions to have a very warm sound. And then when you bring the resolution up, it can get really harsh, really nasty, but in a good way. Now here we've got a switch between whether it's bandpass filter or low pass filter. Now that article that I mentioned earlier that I will link to below claims that actually it's not really bandpass, it's actually high pass. Pavel says, no, it is actually bandpass. Haven't really listened carefully enough to it to make up my mind about that. Now here we control how much the modulation section will affect the filter, and here we'll control how much the envelope affects the filter. Okay, over here we have an amplifier section. So again, we've got, attack, decay, sustain, and release, but we also have this multi-mode thing. And again, switching between these can really make a radical difference to the sound. So, here we're affecting volume basically. And then here again, we're adjusting the amount by which the modulator will affect the amplifier. And here we can control how much key velocity will have an effect on the amplifier. Down at the bottom, we've got an undo and redo button. We've also got this. I haven't actually experimented with these yet. I mean, this looks like an undo to me, so not really sure. There's not a detailed manual on this. The only information about it is on the Red Rock Sound website. So again, here's where we choose our presets. Here, I guess, is where we can maybe copy, set something up, copy it, and do like an A and B comparison, but I haven't experimented with it. Here we have a few controls. If you're using a keyboard with a mod wheel, then this will change what the mod wheel affects. And then here we have this upsampling. I'll let you hear a little bit later about how that can actually change the sound a lot. And we also have a high quality mode here. So let's let me take one of these. Let me just open up a fresh instance actually. Okay, let me take let's see. Okay, let me just take this. Okay, duplicating that. Gonna send something in from Zoa. I'll just use maybe 2. Actually, I'll use 2 and 3 because some of these things will have duophonic effects. Okay, so let me jump up to some things here, some presets I made that will show some of these things in operation. So here we're hearing the difference between duophonic and monophonic. Now if I switch to one voice, it becomes monophonic. Here it's duophonic. You can clearly hear that we can hear 2 separate notes. Very important thing to mention then is that if you want to be using duophonic mode, obviously you need to be sending in 2 notes at once. That's why I put on 2 of the voices from Zoa. Okay, let's see legato versus retrig. So you hear with the legato mode, we're kind of sometimes getting a little bit of a slurring type thing because we're not getting a fast attack on every note. Here, every note has a hard attack, okay? Now let's hear a difference between unison being on and off when you're in duophonic mode. So you can see that has basically turned it monophonic. It's also made it kind of quiet. Could adjust the volume if we wanted. Okay, let's look at some things related to modulation. So again, this is, what we set up here is going to affect the speed and the waveform for all the different modulators in the synth, and these buttons will just control the amounts by which that will affect it. It'd be kind of cool actually if it had different modulators, different actual modulator section for each of these sections where you could then adjust the amount, but let's just see. I mean, it looks like pretty much everything is exposed anyway, so you could always do that using external LFOs. So let's look at, okay, playing around with some filter modulation. So you can see in the filter section the modulation is up full. Now let's play with speed. Okay, so you can see that makes a pretty big difference. This is a square wave. Noise. So you can see nothing's quantized, so you're going to have to play around. This is like a sample and hold. This can be very interesting. So then obviously, you know, playing around with the envelope. As long as we got some, you know, envelope amount here. Here we get that clickiness there. Less clickiness here. Let me just bring it back to triangle. So you do need to play around with this. The you know, using the filters well in a musical way, like you've really got to become familiar with the app. And I've only had this for basically a day. So yeah, but this, you know, is something that you can really learn to play like an instrument and become very interesting. Here we can hear that filter release making a nice difference. Let's change this envelope mode. Not that noticeable in this one, but we've got other examples for that. Let's go to the filter cutoff. And res. Play around with a few other things with the envelopes. Just a beautiful sounding filter. Now let's see here. I mean, if this was bandpass, it would be making noise even here, no? Or maybe it's just because the oscillators are too low. Anyway, beautiful sound and filter. You can get some nice little clicky sounds. Let's bring in the noise. Let's see what the filter's like with no oscillators, just noise. So you can see a lot of possibilities for interesting percussive stuff. Okay, so we switch between the ADSR and the repeated AD. You can hear that difference. Now, sometimes things can be a bit quiet. One thing you could do is bring in, a compressor. Here we've got Red Rock Sound's own compressor. Let me just lazily throw up the makeup gain here. Okay, so that's always an option if you want to make something louder. Actually, anyway, forgot the volumes. I turned down quite low on this. Now, let me see, is there anything else I want to show you here? Toggle amp envelope mode. Okay, so you see you can get some really interesting effects using the amplifier. Let me play with the attack and decay, etc. Right, so some really interesting stuff there. And then, I mean, you can start bringing in modulation. Right, so that gives you an idea of some of the possibilities. Let's hear upsampling. Okay, not very noticeable in this. Let me switch this out to something else for a second. let's go over here. So here first we got that high quality. Okay, you can hear there. Hang on. Let me turn my volume up. So do you hear how, sorry, do you hear how there's more aliasing at those lower levels? Get a much cleaner sound up here. If you like vintage gear, I'd strongly recommend checking out some of the apps of Genuine Soundware. This is their Echo Rec emulation. You can see, by the way, I'm using Room by Clave Grand here as a reverb. This has become one of my absolute favorite go-to reverbs to just go get a beautiful tone extremely quickly. Absolutely love this app. Don't think it got enough attention on its release. Now, let's pop back. I think we were using this one, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do now is go through some of the presets, and then later I'm going to show you how we can set things up so that we can play this basically polyphonically. I'm going to start here, since we've got two input sources here, two notes coming in, with some of these dual and duo presets. Now, let me just kind of fire up Zoa again using this refresh button. It's a great app. Now, do bear in mind that obviously, you know, this is just a quick little run through, and exactly how you set things up is going to depend on what you're putting in. Sorry, I think I'm still running that other instance. Yes. Let me just go back and go through those again. Single voice, duophonic. Bring the volume up. That's up already. Let's just leave it at that. There's no difference between dual and duo, by the way. They're all just duophonic. So there's a fair bit of variation in what this can come up with. Here we got a crazy slow glide time. Well named. Let's hear, for example, here how changing the filter envelope mode affects things. You hear that? A lot of character. And again, seeing, I mean, just how much changing with some of these filter parameters can change things. I think these are really nicely designed presets. Again, we got our volume control here, don't forget. As well as things like our overall tuning. Okay, now for leads, let me jump to one of the lead instances. Let's see here. Hang on. Okay, lead slap lock. What's this getting from? He's getting from both Zoa and Riffler. A second, let me take another one. Okay, I think this is just coming from Zoa. Right, and just one. I haven't checked, but I'm guessing that all these leads are probably monophonic. Okay, so let's go through the leads. Bring the volume up. Now we can also, of course, use the internal host preset menu. They're all there, which is great. Some developers don't do that. It really annoys the hell out of me when they don't. Now this synth has no arpeggiator, it has no delay, it has no other effects. Doesn't matter a damn. Come on, this is $5. I'm sure that most of us here have tons of our own effects. Some of them you're definitely going to have to adjust the volume depending on what you're using as input and its pitch, etc., etc. If you like sound design and experimental stuff, I mean, it's just a complete and utter no-brainer for $5. It's crazy. Very rare to get a $5 synth on iOS these days. And rightly so, in my opinion. I mean, devs shouldn't undersell themselves. But I do think that also this synth will really help Red Rock Sound to get their name out there, because a lot more people are interested in synths than, let's say, all the multitude of vintage EQs and stuff that they've got, even though those are brilliant and do have a very devoted fan base. Again, you know, volume of, or the pitch of what I'm putting in is going to make a difference here. So, you know, we're just doing a quick run through. Give you some ideas of the possibilities. Nice snare sound. So we've gone through everything except bass. So let's bypass that. Let's go back to our Rosetta bassline. Oh, let me turn it up. Okay. Okay, so some great stuff there. Now, as promised, let's look at how to use this polyphonically, which opens up a lot because if you noticed, for example, there wasn't any pads menu there. There's not that much point having pads if you've got only monophonic or duophonic you can do something with, but in general, okay, if you want to, use pads, that kind of thing, you're going to want to have a polyphonic synth, but it's pretty easy to set it up. And as I said earlier in the video, Pavel, the developer, said, yes, they're listening to users and they are going to make it polyphonic, but I'm not sure when that update will come out. So in the meantime, let's look at what you have to do. So here, what I'm going to do is use an instance of Sequence AU keys, which is my current favorite non-MPE iOS keyboard. And I made a tutorial on this. Go and check that out. This great app, strongly recommend it. I've turned velocity off and just turned it up to 127 here. We can have it that the keys are velocity sensitive, depending on where you hit on the vertical axis. Beautiful. So now we've got a polyphonic Polivoks. And how do we do this? Okay, we do it using an app called Polythemis. Now, apparently there's also a Mosaic script that can do this. Haven't looked into that. But if you've got Mosaic, then you could use that. Would save you the money buying this, but I'm not sure if it's got all the same features. I did a video on Polythemis before, so you can look through my archives and check that out. I'm not going to go into much detail here. I mean, you can see a few things. First of all, here we set the number of voices. I decided to use 6 voices, but we could use as many as 8. Then we can control the volume for each voice. And we've got some different options for how voices are allocated. And by default, it's just set to next free, and that's just the way I've left it. Okay, but how do we actually set up the routing? So first of all, we need to give a MIDI input to Polythemis. So for example, that could be a polyphonic sequencer or whatever, or a keyboard, as in this case. So here I've got Sequence selected as my MIDI source for Polythemis. Now, then we need to select our MIDI inputs for the instances of Polivoks or whatever other monophonic synth we want to control. Now, here I've set them all up to be this duophonic patch Elephant Whispers. But of course, you could have each one being different, or you could have, slight tweaks on the same patch. So, that can actually be an advantage of using Polythemis rather than just using an actual polyphonic synth. So, in this case, the monophonic and duophonic thing played through Polythemis can actually be more interesting than playing polyphonic synth. So how do we set this up? So here, in the first instance, I'm choosing Polythemus as my MIDI source for this, and I've set it up that it's receiving from Polythemus output 1. Now, what I did, by the way, now I've got a whole tutorial on AUM. It's actually, I think at the moment, my most popular video. I think it's got more than 20,000 views. It's an hour-long detailed walkthrough that shows a lot of stuff. But anyway, one thing for people who don't know, an easy way, if you just want to get several instances and have them all the same, the easiest way to do that is just use the duplicate function. So you go in here, press duplicate, and it'll bring up an exact copy of what we just duplicated. But I don't want that, so let me remove it. Now let's look at the routing page. You can see there's a lot of stuff going on here with so many instances. By the way, also notice I'm using the 2018 iPad Pro here, running tons of different apps and tons of Polivoks. It's very light on CPU, so that's brilliant. I mean, also my mic chain has some pretty heavy apps, so I'm really impressed by how low the DSP usage is. So easiest way to set all of this up here, you see, like we just routing that sequence into Polythemus, and then the first instance into the first Ivoks, or sorry, the first, out of Polythemus. And then we just got to basically go down in a diagonal line. So that's by far the fastest way of doing it, rather than going in and using the hamburger menus. So there we go. That ability to use Polythemus to make this polyphonic synth opens up tons of possibilities for interesting pads and stuff like that that you're not really finding in the nevertheless extremely quality and varied presets that come with the app. So overall summary, 100% must buy. Definitely one of my favorite apps of the year so far, no question about it. And an absolute steal at $5. I hope that the dev does well from setting such a low price, gets their name out. But I mean, really, that is just so cheap. I think it's just an incredible bargain. All right, everyone. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Regardless of whether you're entering the giveaway or not, again, details for that are in the pinned comment as usual. Regardless of whether you're entering the giveaway, if you enjoyed this video, subscribe, click all when the bell pops up, give the video a like, write a comment. It helps the YouTube algorithm, helps to get this out. I think this dev also deserves for this synth to get known by as many people as possible. It's hard times, but even for most people at the moment, $5 is not a lot to get such an interesting synth that has extremely varied sound design possibilities. I mean, you could just get this and play around with it for a month. I mean, I don't think there's many things you could spend $5 on today that would give you that amount of pleasure. So hats off to Pavel, and in general, he just seems like a really, great developer. All the apps are very good quality, beautiful sound, loads of emulations of vintage gear that would cost you an absolute fortune if you were buying the hardware, Pultec, equalizers, and so on. So go and support the dev. When you buy this app, I think making a synth this good at that kind of price, make sure you leave them a review on the App Store, and do that in general. for, you know, all devs, guys. Everybody needs support at the moment. I'm sure a lot of you saw Doug from the Sound Test Rooms video asking for donations and just talking about just how hard it is to survive as an iOS YouTuber. I mean, he's been doing this, I think, mostly full time for the past 10 years. He can, you know, barely scratch a living together from that. My income from YouTube for the past 28 days was around $70. And, you know, I've got hundreds of videos. I'm not as busy with my channel as I was, but also for mm, about a year and a half. I mean, I worked really pretty full time on this channel, did a lot of extremely detailed videos. So, you know, iOS is really niche. You know, we need to support developers. We need to support the YouTubers as well. In my case, usually in my comments, I put a few different ways you can support. You know, there's PayPal. I mean, if you don't have money, well, you know, watch some ads. At least don't use an ad blocker. Um, there's my Bitcoin address there. Another thing, of course, is that YouTube now is, if you're using an old version of the app, it may not have this. But if you're using the website, it should have it. Or if you're using a newer version of the app, if you look up at the top, kind of, I think it's above the subscription button, you might have to scroll over among the different options like and so on. But you should see a button there that says something like Super Thanks, I think it's called. Yeah. And it's not available in all countries, but it's available in most. And that's a way that you can tip YouTubers directly in YouTube itself, which a lot of people are not actually aware of. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. I certainly have been really enjoying playing around with this synth. As I said, I've only had it for a day or so. This is something you really want to get deep with, and particularly with the modulation, you know, really like get a feel for how that works, and you know, get those kind of beautiful rhythmic filter and amp effects that this thing is capable of. Beautiful instrument. Really, really love it. It's got so much character. Okay, folks, I'll see you in the next video. Have a good day, evening, afternoon, whatever time zone you're in. Take care.